Just when you thought retail Danistan could not stoop any lower, it does.
So this is the news that apparently the ANC has written out there and basically said to Anglo-America, who's leaving the country, for countries that aren't retarded. The ANC has said, we know you're going to cut loads of job losses, but can you wait till after the election? Because if you do it before the election, that'll make us look bad. But once we're back in the power, like, you can fire everybody. We don't care.
It's just mind-blowing. Just like mind-blowing retardation that we're seeing on a daily basis in this country called Retardanistan. You have Anglo-American, who is chaired by Maria Ramos, who is a cheerleader of the ANC since the late 80s. She cheered on BE and affirmative action. Now she's chairing the company that's leaving the shores of South Africa. Consequence of that, people are going to be fired. And we're not talking about 10 people, we're talking about thousands of people. And the ANC catches wind of this and says, no, do it after the election, please. Pretty please. We know we the reason you're leaving, but just do us one more favor. I hope, for the sake of sanity, Anglo-American says, fork off and fires people today.
That would be the logical thing to do, but as we know, with all these woke little corporates, the woke corporates love to sickle at the tea to the ANC. I'll give you another example, and that is the news today that Volkswagen says they may actually stop making cars in South Africa. Because, South Africa used to have a really good labor market, but it doesn't anymore. And you know what they really need to make cars? Electricity. We don't have any.
Well, not only that, there are thousands of components that cannot get to the factory because we have no more trains and railway lines and ports and ships and, things that were solved in 1852 in Great Britain. Like, we just don't have those things here.
And you know what VW says that they really need to focus on and implement for the future? Electric cars. And they literally say electric cars will not work in South Africa because they have no electricity. So what's the point in making cars that we can't sell to the local audience? Because they have no electricity. And they actually stressed this a real load. They said, why would you make electric cars in a country really far away from the road? You can't even sell it to the locals because they have no electricity. This is truly retarded. Like, retarded 101.
But VW does say that the Kiriche plant, which is down there where you are in the Eastern Cape, that plant is one of the most competitive plants in the world for VW about 10 years ago. Now it's the least competitive plant. And VW has come out to say, listen, we're not a charity. We're trying to make a profit. But when we build stuff, we can't get it offshore because there's no railway lines. And our stockpile is full because we can't get components to finish off what we wish to build. So what is the point of having a factory in the middle of Retardanistan for VW? And it's not. And they are German. Like, efficiency is everything for them. I'm surprised they're still alive and haven't died of, a brain aneurysm.
Well, they actually explain what a brain aneurysm to them would be like. It would be like if you had to shut your plant down every 2 weeks with all your cars still on the factory because they're waiting for that one microchip that you just got to fit to the car. And then the cars can go off the railway lines, off the construction lines, back onto the railway lines, and then go back out to port and go out to sea. Yeah, all the microchips are stuck out of sea outside the port of Richards Bay because, in case you haven't noticed the news, harbours. So that's literally what they are doing. They are sending people home. Then they build the next phase of cars. The car sits there for 2 weeks because it's waiting for parts. And then even when they finally finish all the cars, they can't send them back to the ports because there's no railway. It's fucked. And even when it gets to the ports, they can't ship them out the country because Johnson is fucked. So they're like, what's the point of making cars? Because the whole point of making cars on a factory line is based on churn them out. Like, you got to churn them out really quickly and just push them ashore. Right? Remember, this is the law of large numbers. If we can do it at large numbers with a short enough or small enough cost, we make significant profits. And so what VW are now coming out and saying is, we can't make profits because we can't churn things out fast. We can't even get access to our equipment. And that's not even talking about how shitty the labor market is.
And also, this is 4,000 jobs and close to 50,000 jobs along the entire supply chain for making these cars. And VW is subsidized by the taxpayer to be here. So is Ford, so is BMW, so is every other automaker. So when you buy one of those cars, you pay for it twice. Once through your subsidy and once through the purchase price. But even with the subsidy, it's just not good enough. And the worst part of all of this the worst part. There hasn't been an earthquake here. There's no natural disaster that knocked us off course. There's no violent revolution. It was just retardation for 30 years that brought us here. Literally, that is it. Low IQ, deep state civil service has brought us right here. With job losses, with no trains, with Transnet being beforked, with ships waiting in the bay for 6 weeks because they can't offload anything. It's just people who just don't give a shit. That's what governing South Africa is now. Just not giving a shit.
We don't give a shit if you fire everybody. We don't give a shit if you close down a whole company. We don't give a shit if mining disappears. We do give a shit about our elections. So just do it after the elections, because that might make us look as bad. Before the elections. After the elections, hey, free for all, do what you want. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the hallmark of a retard Danistan policy, courtesy of the ANC government.